What up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel for all you beautiful faces out there in the Fandom Frequency community. We break down everything here in the world of pop culture, as y'all already know. Movies, TV shows, anime, music. We got a lot of great developments coming in that regard as well. Stay tuned for all that good stuff. And we've been in the middle of spooky season, getting into all the horror Halloween goodness as well. But y'all know the deal. And for those of you just joining us for the first time, you're clicking around looking for She-Hulk reviews, recaps, and all that, we are a great place to get it. We've been covering all 9 episodes of the series. We did it every single week, and we got those weekly recaps also going on right now for Andor and the rest of House of the Dragon. That has been getting real crazy over there on HBO. So make sure you tune in for all that. And if you click the subscribe below the video, you will be a part of all that goodness, and it'll be right there in your feed, ready for you whenever you're ready to click play. So with no further ado, y'all, you know the deal. You know the deal. We're talking about the finale of She-Hulk, man. Woo! This has been a hotly contested series. This probably might be the most mixed opinion, the most mixed reception MCU thing in a long, long time, possibly of all time. Definitely the most mixed project of the MCU, even though I thought Thor Love and Thunder was going to be that. It definitely turned out to be this. She-Hulk, we've been all over the place, even ourselves with the series, you know what I'm saying? Because myself, at least going from my own perspective, I don't have my boy Skippy with me on this one, unfortunately. He's been a little bit busy. You know, he is a medical student, so he's trying to get through those finals right now. So, gonna keep it, holding it down right here, but you're gonna see him back on those other ones, guys, to come. But he has been one of those people that hasn't necessarily been loving the show. You know what I'm saying? He's been a little bit more on that mixed to negative reception of the series, and I totally understand it. And there's a lot of fans out there just like him that are feeling the same exact way about the series, man. I've been a little bit mixed myself because just giving you guys a little bit of background for those just joining our recaps for the first time this particular week. I thoroughly enjoyed the first 3 episodes of the series. I really enjoyed them, man, especially the first 2. I thought really kicked ass and was really establishing a really nice new tone of that situational comedy, that sitcom kind of element, that Sex and the City kind of vibe, kind of mixed in with the MCU and mixed in with like kind of like a law procedural, like a lawyer show. You know what I'm saying? Something like an Ally McBeal or something like that. So that vibe mixed in with the MCU stuff, and not just the tie-ins or the cameos from people like Bruce Banner, the Hulk, or the Abomination. Those were elements that definitely helped in that regard, but I just thought that they had a really nice balance of the storytelling, the new tone, the old tone that we've come to know and love, and had a nice healthy balance of the two vibes that were coming together to give us an awesome new character in Jennifer Walters, played by the great Tatiana Maslany, who I haven't had a single complaint about in all 9 episodes. She has been a blast. I absolutely love her character. I love her acting. I think she's been bringing a lot of credibility to the role, and people know she's been playing, you know, multiple different personalities and wholly different characters over there on Orphan Black. So I figured she was going to come into this show and bring a lot of talent, a lot of skill, and she definitely did that. And she was so funny, so endearing, so charming. That's never been my issue with the series either. Thought they did a great job of establishing Jen as a character from the jump and giving us a nice established place to start. You know what I mean? So I thought those first 3 episodes were really, really a good time, something different, something fresh, and gave me something similar to kind of like Miss Marvel, where that was something kind of more in like Degrassi kind of YA kind of vibe mixed in with the MCU. But I thought they just blended those 2 elements together perfectly the entire series for the whole 6-episode run. This one, I felt like they ran into a bit of a stumble, and you can kind of see there were a lot of cooks in the kitchen, and they didn't necessarily, I think, have a full-on cohesive vision for what they wanted to do for the middle part of the season and of the series, because 4 through 6 for me were a really big mixed bag. I enjoyed 4 for the most part, but I definitely thought there were some instances where I love the character Madison, right? She was a lot of fun, but I thought there was like certain scenes with her, like in the courtroom, right? Or certain moments with Wong and other things where I thought they went a little bit too silly and didn't really necessarily stick to that balanced tone that they had so perfectly down in those first 3 episodes. And also the storytelling got a little more sloppy too, you know what I mean? And we didn't really keep establishing Jen as a character and going more into that. And the things that we were establishing with the character were very on the nose, you know, kind of hitting you over the head and whatnot, not necessarily gelling with the rest of the storylines in an organic and kind of natural way, the way that it was before. And you kind of lost that more dramatic, more serious side of Jennifer Walters and more of that deeper stuff with the character, you know? Now, it's not necessarily a drama or a thriller. I don't expect them to go that deep. But I just thought that they had a nice balance of the fun, but being able to take the character a little more seriously and having her go on a journey in and of itself, you know? And I thought they didn't really balance that out the same way as they have in things like WandaVision or Miss Marvel as or Loki as other examples of series in the Disney Plus MCU model that I have enjoyed a lot, and I really do want to revisit. And I really had a lot of fun watching those, and really connected with those main characters, and thought they had a great arc for those characters to go on throughout the season. Even though some villain things or other things maybe didn't come into play towards that latter half and in the finale of those particular shows, other than Loki, to me, which was damn near flawless, this didn't necessarily have that same vibe going for it in that way. In the middle, especially with episodes 5 and 6, I thought they definitely lost their balance. They lost their way. It got very sloppy, very silly, and they definitely didn't have any of the grounded tone from the MCU that we've come to know. It just got a little bit too silly for me personally, and I think a lot of fans similar to me out there were feeling the same way. And I know there's some people that just weren't liking it from the jump, so I figured some of those people probably jumped off the train. Other people that hate watching and whatnot. But yeah, that middle portion of the season really shook me for a minute, man. And I wasn't really sure exactly where I was going to be with this series, man, because it was such a strong start, but it was really having a bumpy middle, man. Almost reminds me of another trilogy we're going to be getting into in the horror genre. But yeah, it was a little bit of a bumpy road in that middle half, man. I mean, in that middle portion. But episode 7 with the retreat, going to Emil Blonsky, Jen getting ghosted by that asshole that ended up being one of the guys working with Intelligentsia, which we're going to get into in just a minute. That was really picking up steam for me. In episode 8, with our boy Matt Murdock coming back up in the MCU proper with his Daredevil costume, baby, ketchup and mustard. If you've seen the episode, you know what I mean. All that, the great connection with him and Jennifer Walters, them hooking up not just as superheroes and teaming up to kick some ass, but also hooking up in the bedroom, you know what I'm saying? Getting it in and having some good times. And Jen finally getting to meet somebody that's a genuine good dude, getting to date somebody that's cool. And I really like their chemistry. It's electric. It's really great. I haven't seen chemistry in the MCU with a love interest thing like that in a long, long time. Probably since Tony Pepper Potts, Steve, and Peggy Carter. That's phase 1, you know what I mean? So we haven't really had an electric energy like that. I would actually give it to Star-Lord and Gamora. They were pretty awesome too together as a couple. But it's been a minute. It's almost been 10 years since the original Guardians. And it's been 5 or 6 years since the second one. And we're about to get Volume 3, so it's been a minute. We haven't really had that couple anymore because things and all the Infinity War Endgame shenanigans, time travel, quantum realm shit. So things have changed there. So we don't really have that dynamic duo and that dynamic couple in the MCU like we did have in the past. And while they redeemed a bit of that Thor-Jane love, this really fits here. This really vibes. I like the whole thing of how they're on similar paths as not just people, but similar career paths, similar interests, similar passions, and things of that nature, and bounce off each other so well just as performers and actors. They got to get Charlie Cox and Tatiana Maslany in another MCU project stat. Get her in Born Again. Let's do this fucking thing. That was awesome. So leading into this finale, man, getting to the big piece of the pie here, did they land the plane? Did they stick the landing? For the most part. For me personally, for the most part, they stuck that landing, man. I dug the finale. I gotta say, they definitely delivered on some of those character arcs and some of those storylines that we were going with. They didn't necessarily land all of them, but for the most part, they landed in a nice place with Jen. And I liked where the episode was picking up after the end of episode 8, where they exposed leaked the sex tape thing or whatever. And all that's out in there. Her whole privacy's been blown and everything like that. Not her cover's been blown, and now everyone's seen her Hulk out for real and really go to that rage monster side of things. And now people are afraid of her. And now she has been formally arrested, yo, like straight up arrested. And Melanie and I'm forgetting her name for some reason, Nikki, they go and handle the court business side of things while she's locked up, and they end up getting a plea deal where she has to wear an inhibitor, of course, and can't become She-Hulk anymore if they can get her off her sentence if she wears the inhibitor. So that's the deal she's got to make. She does make the deal, but due to that fact, and since she was hired at GLKH, the superhero law firm, as She-Hulk and not Jennifer Walters, because they don't care about that side of her anyway, she loses her job, which inevitably ends up making her lose her house or her place, and she has to end up moving back home with her fam. And all of that in the very, very top of the episode, I thought was so well done. You really felt for her character. You really felt bad for her, you know what I'm saying? Because you understand where she's coming from. You understand why she was upset. But when you got those Hulk rage powers, man, you got to be careful what you're doing. And once they see you as that monster, that's all they're going to see you as, too. So it's going to be a little more difficult for her to walk that back and kind of be able to kind of, sweep that under the rug or whatever. So I really dug all that, but I do think they should have kind of let that part of the storyline kind of have its own episode, kind of let her kind of deal with that aftermath of that event in just its own 30, 40-minute episode, you know what I mean? I think would have been a little bit better and get to establish a little bit more of that going on and leading into the intelligentsia stuff and a little bit more of a smoother transition, because I think the way they got into that, figured out who it was, what was going on with Todd and all this other shit, I thought they got to that a little too quickly. And with these 30-minute runtimes for the episodes, it is tough to get to all these different storylines and all these different things going on or whatever. So I definitely think they should have just extended these out. I think they should have extended these out, made them 2 separate episodes, kept them at their 30, 40 minutes, whatever. And I think that would have delivered a little bit more of a 1-2 punch, a 9, 10, a 10 episode run. I think would have gave us a little bit more of a satisfactory finale, because I think just kind of letting her sit in that moment of defeat and let her kind of pull herself back up and really have to deal with that stuff, and then really have to figure out what's going on with the intelligentsia a little bit more, I think would have let that just kind of marinate a bit better and just would have had a little more impact overall, and just would have sat a little better in the overall grand scheme of things and just the flow of the episodes and of the storytelling. But overall, wasn't bad or anything like that. Just thought they could have marinated on that a little bit more. But as we progress from there, Jen wants to obviously sue him and use the law to her advantage, and like she is as a lawyer, wants to go the legal route and doesn't want to necessarily just go beat him up. So she wants to use everything she can to prove everything that she can to get him in court and to get him sued for everything that he's done. Defamation of character, yada, 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 all that legal jargon. Nikki's like, come on, man, let's just go kick the ass. Any means necessary, right? And Jen's like, no, we're going to do it by the law. Because she's all, Jen about it. And she's like, all right, fine, whatever. So they're going to have to come up with some way to try to get into intelligentsia, or figure out a way to infiltrate them, and figure out a way to figure out who's behind it and meet up with these guys physically in some way or somehow. So the way they figure out how to do it is this, which I thought was a little bit silly, and this is what I was kind of alluding to a little bit earlier. Jen's mom comes in when they're in the middle of going through the whole whiteboard ordeal, Charlie Day style, and trying to figure out what the hell's going on, and figure out who's behind intelligentsia and what they can do to get an edge on them and get them in court. Her mom's over here embarrassing Jen with the video of Jen twerking on her phone or whatever. And I'm like, oh dear, like her in college with her friends dancing and twerking or whatever they're doing. And then she's like, oh ha, that's so funny. And Jen's all embarrassed and stuff. But then Nikki gets the idea to use that as bait for the people on intelligentsia to send that into them on the message board, the Reddit board, whatever. And be like, hey, look at this embarrassing video, blah, 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 blah. And then they're like, oh yeah, come hang out at our lodge, at our little hangout or whatever. And they go to meet up with this hangout, and she ends up taking their boy Pug from GOKH with them so he can go infiltrate them, because obviously a woman ain't gonna be able to go in there and do that, because they're all a bunch of, morons that are hating on women and shit. So obviously a woman can't go in there and infiltrate the situation. So they send in Pug, who is obviously uncomfortable about it because he's actually a cool dude that isn't like that. But he has to play the part, he has to know his role. Know your role, damn it. You know what I'm saying? You got to pull the rock on this one. You got to go in there and do your thing. So he's going in there to do his thing, and he's all, and that whole sequence of him going in there and kind of infiltrating them, Star Wars style in a sense, and kind of talking to him and acting like he's all a part of him. She's all, make sure you never use the word women, only use females. It's just so funny, man. It's just all these different little funny things, and they're like, yo, and then you see Todd walk up. He's like, hey, I didn't know you were down with this, bro. Come on, man, bring it in. I didn't know you were one of us. Because his dumb ass, of course, is going to fall for it. And it turns out, as I had suspected, and I'm sure my boy Skippy and plenty of you fans out there had suspected as well, Todd Phillips, whatever his name was, he ended up being the one that was Hulk King, and he was behind the whole intelligentsia plot to begin with, which I had figured, especially after that one dinner scene with him talking about the Wakandan spear and wanting to talk to Jen all the time, and every time he's seen her, he just had this really keen interest that definitely did not seem like he was interested in her, as in datings or anything like that. I was like, there's something up with this guy. There's something up with this guy for sure. So that definitely was a little obvious and a little easy to tell, but whatever. We move on. And Jen is over here. She actually left her mom's pad, and she went over there and contacted Emil Blonsky to see if he can console with her and kind of have a one-on-one conversation about dealing with all these issues, because he's a form of a Hulk in one way himself, but he's busy at the moment. And she's over there at the retreat, and she talks to Wrecker or whatever, and he's like, hey, I think he's actually doing a private speaking gig down there in the lodge, and there's a private meeting. You should go check him out. He should be down there. You can go talk to him there. And, of course, it turns out that the same place where Emil Blonsky's going to do his little speaking engagement is the same place where all these intelligentsia morons are hanging out. So Jen's like, what the fuck? What? Hey, you're behind this, Todd? And then you see the Abomination come in, and we all know he's not supposed to be the Abomination, Emil Blonsky, that is. So he's gonna be in big trouble for that. And she's like, what the fuck? I just vouched for you and got you off of, got you parole and shit, and now you fucking up and breaking the rules, and you work with these guys. Which I was thinking the same thing. Like, what? He's working with these dudes? Did he just swerve us the entire season? But it turns out no. He's just there to do a motivational speaking thing for any group or anyone that pays him just for profit, just to get himself out there and use the abomination in that way to sell and get those bookings. So that was what it turned out to be. So I was glad they didn't swerve us too hard in that direction, because that would have been a little weird. And then Todd's over here like, well, I got your blood, so I'm going to inject it in myself. There we go. Bam. And then he starts hulking out and shit. And I'm like, no, why is the show going this way? This is so cliche. We've seen this a million times. This isn't phase 1. I don't want to see Hulk versus Hulk and the same hero versus the same thing again. I'm so over it. And then Jen's like, none of these freaking storylines or plot lines make any sense. What the hell's going on? I'm like, I'm with you. How the Hulk bust in out of nowhere, and I'm like, how the fuck did he get here? He was in space, bro. He didn't answer no text message. What the hell's going on? And then the show stops, and you jump over to the Disney Plus Marvel menu screen with all the different playlists or things there, and you're like, wait a minute, what? And then you see She-Hulk pop out of her icon on the menu. She just shattered the fourth wall. She smashed that motherfucker, bro. She went full Deadpool on this one. We got 16 walls on this. And she's like, hold on a minute. I'm going to go figure this out. She swings over from her little icon into the Marvel assembled icon and crashes through that and ends up on the actual Disney lot, the actual Disney Studios film lot. That was awesome right there, man. I'm like, yo, writers, good stuff right here. Where is this going? I don't know, but I'm liking what you're doing here. And then she ends up walking into Marvel Studios on the Disney lot and says, hey, I need to talk to, she walks into the writer's room after she goes through the lobby or whatever, and you see all the old school Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark 9, whatever armors and everything like that, like you saw from the thumbnail I had here, which was great to see the actual kind of Disney lot and the real Marvel Studios setup and everything like that. And she was like, hey, I need to talk to the writers because these storylines suck, and I don't like this finale, man. We need to figure this out. I'm like, this is great stuff, man. Where's Deadpool at? Is he going to pop up any second here? And then she's like, I need to go talk to these writers. And she actually talks to the real live writers and directors and people behind the scenes in the writers' room at Marvel Studios. So I love that, man. Just meta on top of meta on top of meta. We're going Scream 3 in this bitch. I like this stuff. And then that was a lot of fun. And then she's talking to like Jessica Gao and the real life directors and writers and stuff. And they're like, well, we thought this would be a great way to end it out. And they're talking about season 2 and shit. She's like, hold on. Nah, this is not the way we're going to end my story. I need to talk to Kevin. And I had the subtitles on because I like to catch different, the spelling of different people's names and different things and little references and different locations and things like that when I'm taking my notes. And I noticed that they had Kevin not written as a normal name. It was Kevin, an acronym. I forgot to write down the acronym, so forgive me, y'all. But he is actually an algorithm, it turns out, because when she busts into his so-called office, and I thought there was something weird and sentient going on with that abbreviation of the name, he actually turns out to be an algorithm, like an AI robot that operates off of algorithms and has created the entire Phase 1 through Phase 4 MCU as we know it within the confines of this episode in the fictional world, blending into the real world type of Scott Pilgrim mindfuckery right there. And I was like, yo, what? And you just see all the MCU playing on the screens back there, which that in itself as a visual, like going full Truman Show with the MCU, is actually kind of dope. Conceptually, I'm really fucking with this stuff. It's really awesome. The jokes are so on point, and we're not even getting to some of the best lines here because as Jen starts talking to Kevin, the AI or whatever, he's like, well, I need you to transform back into your normal form because you're expensive. And she's like, okay, fine. And he's like, make sure you're off screen when you change back. And I'm like, oh man, that's so great. I like the behind the scenes kind of references and jokes there, poking at themselves a little bit, because you see a lot of that, them cutting away and then it's back and then she's normal Jen or whatever in the little baggy suit or whatever clothes she happens to be wearing. And at this moment she's wearing the cool ass comic accurate super suit, so she's back in that. And sick ass costume, by the way. It looks great. And yeah, so then she's like, okay, cool. And she's like, well, what do you mean it's so expensive? He's like, well, we have the visual effects team is working on another project right now and has moved on from yours. And you hear the little, the Wakandan, like, Kendrick theme, Like you get the little score. I'm like, oh shit, that's hilarious because they probably literally did have to stop working on the She-Hulk stuff as much, finish it up so they can stream the episodes, and then they're jumping over to Wakanda Forever to work on that until November 10th, the day before the shit's out and shit, and get it out there or whatever. So it's so funny how they kind of reference and kind of poke fun of themselves for having some of that inconsistent CGI, while it doesn't necessarily erase the fact that there's inconsistent CGI and effects in the show. And as me and Skippy had discussed earlier and previously, if you're just joining us for the first time this week, we have said before, some of the CGI is a little spotty, but as it was with Hulk in Phase 1, and as they developed that technology into film or TV, how Bruce Banner looks like himself and looks great all the time now, it had to build to that over the first 3 phases. Phase 3 and beyond, the Hulk looked great all the time because they had time to hone in on those effects and had time to work on them. And plus, the visual effects teams back in those first couple phases didn't have as big of a workload. You know what I mean? They weren't doing TV shows and movies and 3 movies a year and shit. They were doing 1 to 2 movies a year, 3 tops by the time we got to 2017, 2018. But they didn't have as many things going on, so they were really able to really fine-tune all those effects for the Hulk, Bruce Banner Hulk, that is, and whatever. But if you look back in that Phase 1 Incredible Hulk movie, him and Abomination don't look great all the time. So just want to throw that out there. I think Jen, the overall design of She-Hulk in the MCU moving forward from Phase 5 and beyond is going to look better and better every time you see it. They're going to have time to work on that and develop it and really hone in on that character, because we have to remember, they've never had a live-action female version of any Hulk or anything like that. They've only had her in the animated stuff. We've never had live action. They've had Hulk for a minute. We've had live action CGI type Hulk since 2003's Ang Lee Hulk. So it's literally just under, and by the time this video is a couple months old, there will be a 20-year-old movie. So they've had time to work on the effects of the Hulk in the big hulking version that we're used to. They got to get fine-tuned with that Gen stuff for sure, but I'm sure they will. But I will say this, the CGI in this episode for the finale, and especially in these sequences at the MCU Marvel Studios and all that, was great. She looked phenomenal when they had the She-Hulk effects on her, and then she changed it back, of course. And she's like, yo, we gotta change these motherfucking storylines, bro. Why the fuck is Bruce here jumping into this shit and saving the day when this is my show? Scratch that. Why is it always nighttime? Why are we always fighting at nighttime? Scratch that. And then she's like, come on, man. Like, what's with all these daddy issues? Which was funny because we've all thought this at one point. Tony Stark, daddy issues. Thor, daddy issues. Loki, same daddy, same issues. It's just like so funny, man, because it's like, what is with all the daddy issues in this thing? And it's just like, she keeps going on and on about that, and she's like, yo, where's the motherfucking X-Men, bruh? And I was like, yes, thank you. We're all wondering the same thing, but I know we're gonna get there, so let's be patient, MCU fanboys and my fellow brethren and sisterin. I don't know if brethren applies to women and men too. You know what I mean, my fellow fandom peoples. So, yeah. So, that was awesome right there. I loved a lot of the dialogue and the jokes here was so funny. And then she's like, keep making all these changes. And Todd, no serum. Let's get rid of this super soldier serum shit. She's like, okay. And Kevin's like, all right. Anything else? And she's like, well, yeah, get rid of the Hulk or whatever. And he's like, well, we need to tease that because we got to set up the movie. She's like, no. We got to, no, fuck the next thing. Save it for the movie. We're like, save it for the movie? Are you talking World War Hulk, girl? Are you talking about what I think you're talking about? I got a feeling, man. Like, yo, let's go. Like, I hope there is a movie, man. So we get that big tease right there. And then she goes back into the situation and everything has just magically seemed to have resolved itself. And that's where some of my negatives come in for the finale as well. You didn't actually have a true blue finish to your conflict with the villains. Todd's just arrested magically all of a sudden. Daredevil just happens to be there because she likes Matt Murdock. And I love that joke where she's all, I like to smash a lot of things. The fourth wall, walls and shit. Matt Murdock sometimes. Like, I was like, oh yeah, Jen, you own that, man. You did it. You get it, girl. So I was like, yeah, I love that joke right there. But I don't get how everything is just solved in like a matter of seconds at the end of the thing. Like, I'm like, no. You should have had her go back to where the initial conflict was about to begin, and then they end the conflict in a different way, but we see it actually play out. We didn't see it play out, bro. He's magically arrested and going to get sued and get arrested, and then Daredevil just happens to be there, but he's too late, apparently. I'm like, why the fuck would his ass be rushing back? What? I didn't see her text his ass. And it's all this stuff just gets resolved all quick and out of nowhere. Her and Titania are friends now. Titania's over there flirting with Daredevil. Like, what? Like, how did we get here so fast? And I love when freaking Titania first busts in and Nikki's like, does that bitch ever use a door? I was like, for real, bro. Like, I love these little, like, so many funny freaking lines in this episode, I gotta say. And in the show overall, but this episode just had so many fucking zingers, man. It's like they were saving him for the finale on purpose. But yeah, man, like, it was a fun time, but yeah, they definitely resolved things way too quickly in this finale in that sense. So that definitely sucked a little bit of air out of the balloon towards the end there. A little anticlimactic for sure, but whatever. But it is what it is. But then we move into the nice end of the episode, which I really, really love, which you have her having dinner with the fam or having like a little like, almost a Fast and Furious style barbecue there. Family, you know what I'm saying? And then you got my boy Matt Murdock, man. He's up in there. He's over there meeting the family, they're meeting the boyfriend and whatnot, and he's over here busting his balls about, hey, so you work in your own practice, huh? You must make a lot of money. He's like, well, no, sometimes, not really. Sometimes we'll kind of help people out that are in need and stuff like that, low income, whatever. And he's like, but you do make money, right? She's like, Jen's like, yo, stop asking how much money he makes. Back off, Dad. He's like, hey, it's expensive raising kids out here in LA, all right? And he's like, yo, whoa. She's like, hey, I just dated him like for a week. And then Matt's like, whoa, boy. He's all, hey, he can't see it, but he's blushing, man. And he's like, all right, no worries, it's all good. And I like that whole scene. And then you get Hulk popping in out of nowhere with his Hawaiian shirt on or whatever. He's like, hey guys, meet my son Scar. And I'm like, what? Did you just say Scar, bro? What? Young Avengers is coming, son, by Phase 6. You mark my words and mark it to the day, October 14th, 2022. It's coming by Phase 6. Young Avengers, you heard it here first. But yeah, so you get that big whole World Hulk tease and everything like that. And it's going to be interesting to see what the hell he was up to. He didn't just make a kid that fast, I'd assume, right? So maybe when he was up there in Ragnarok, he was getting a little busy but doesn't remember. That's the way I think they're going to kind of tie it back. But that's a really, really cool tease for the future as well. Love how they're doubling down on Jen and Matt's relationship. Please make that an MCU couple going forward. Please. That'd be awesome. One of my new favorite characters and one of my old favorite characters back from years back now coming together, and I think just such electric energy. We need that. We need these great superhero couples from the comics and things to really come and really make a stamp out here. Like Wanda and Vision's really the only one that's really made a stamp in a while, and Gamora and Star-Lord. So we need to punch that up. More romance in the MCU, but cool romance the way they're doing it. I really like it. And plus, the actors just have such great chemistry. Why wouldn't you want to take advantage of that while they're all signed up and ready to go and willing to do all these different MCU projects? So I definitely had a blast with the finale, but I definitely think they were patting themselves on the back a little too much with some of the references in that latter half of the finale there. You know what I'm saying? And overall, I thought they resolved things way too quickly, a little too anticlimactic for my taste. But overall, it was a fun finale for sure. And I definitely like the series. I don't love the series or anything like that. It's a fun series and whatnot. I'll definitely be skipping. I'll probably do the first 3 and the last 3. Make it a 6-episode run for myself. Because those 6 episodes, to me, are a good time. Some good MCU content. Not the greatest stuff we've ever had in there. But it's around that Iron Man 3, Iron Man 2... Thor Dark World stuff, like even though Dark World I think is like one of the only bad things in Marvel, I think She-Hulk's definitely a few steps up above that. It's in that C tier, you know what I mean? I'm going to give it a solid 7 out of 10 as a series overall, just barely, because I love Jen. They landed the last 2 episodes especially really well for the most part, episode 8 more so than anything. Introduced Daredevil in a way and changed up the character for the MCU enough, but didn't take away the essence of that character. And I think Born Again's going to get a little more of those grittier vibes. So I think we're going to get there, but it didn't belong in this series. So the way they introduced him in, worked him into the series, the way him and Jen comes together as a couple and whatnot, and the things that could be teased for the future and all the possibilities. Love that. Love the new suit and everything. Love Jen's comic book accurate suit. I love Jennifer Walters, the character, first and foremost. Really enjoy Tatiana Maslany's performance as her. I want to see as much of her as we can. She is awesome. Keep her around as long as she's down. I love Jennifer Walters. She's great. Like her friends, love her family and stuff. All great stuff there. Emil Blonsky, hell of a surprise there. But like I said, storytelling, character development, a little too spotty, a little too all over the place. And the humor, while it works for me most of the time, definitely going to split people, but I think humor is so subjective anyway. That's just going to be it's kind of gonna be up in the air, but I think they just need to balance out their tone, balance out that storytelling, and give us a more focused narrative and character arc for Jen and the overall vibe of the show. And I think season 2, if they want to do one, could be really, really awesome stuff. And one last thing I want to give props to, that incredible that Lou Ferrigno Hulk TV nod they did with the overall intro of the finale, recreating that classic intro to that series with the plot lines of this and calling it Savage She-Hulk and all that stuff. That was awesome. Chef's kiss. Great Marvel reverence to the classic stuff, to that era. I really love the way they worked that in. That was really cool, shot for shot. Awesome, like, stuff. Like, I really, really dug that intro. That was really, really cool to see them do that throwback stuff. I love throwback stuff. For any of you that don't know, you know I love my nostalgia and my old school stuff. So that was cool. Overall, it's a solid series. It was a very good finale. Not great, but very good. Solid series. Good conclusion. Excited and interested to see where they're going to take Jen as a character, and I'm very intrigued to see where the series is going to go from here, if it continues to go on or where she'll pop up in the future. But I would love to hear from you all in the comments below. Let me know what you thought about this good old She-Hulk, baby. I want to hear from you guys in those comments below. We would love to get into a discussion with y'all. And thank you for all of those that have joined us all 9 weeks in a row for these recaps. It's been a lot of fun, guys. I've had a blast doing these with my boy Skips, doing a couple of them solo. But regardless, it's always fun getting with y'all in this fandom frequency community. And I want to say thank you to all the subscribers we've been gaining over the last week or so. You know what I'm saying? The Terrifier 2 video is our very first video here on the channel. Our spoiler review for that hit over 1,000 views. It's at about like 1,800 now. It's insane. We're over 100 subscribers now, so we totally obliterated and smashed through the goal, guys, and that's all thanks to you. I wasn't thinking we were going to reach 100 this soon. It's insane. Thank you guys for all the continued support you've been giving the channel and all the great engagement and conversation we've been having in the comments. Do the same thing down below. Whether you hated the show, loved it, or fell somewhere in between. I want to hear from y'all down there, but thank you so much to each and every one of you supporters and subscribers and watchers and everyone clicking on the videos and everything like that, sharing it on the social media pages. I want to shout out to you guys and gals over there. So thank you so much for the support. It truly means the world to me and everyone here on the team at Fandom Frequency. But until next time, guys, make sure you stay safe out there and don't get in too much trouble and don't do anything I wouldn't do, all right? And for you Halloween horror nuts, Halloween Ends, our spoiler review is going to be dropping here on the channel no later than Sunday. Make sure you stay tuned and you don't sleep on any of that. But until then, I'm going to see y'all again real soon. Peace.